Where are we? Chaf Heim would be Chaf Heim and Alpha at the top, bottom. No, Chaf Zayin would be. Let's start with Chaf Zayin and Aleph at the bottom. Let's start with Chaf Zayin and Aleph at the bottom. Okay, the last line. Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Shimon Lakish, or is that the next page?
Yeah.
Rabbi Zira, Shimon Lakish. You sure might be. I just turned the page. No, Chav Zayin. Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Zira, Shimon Lakish, Rabbi Yosha said, they both in their Rabbi Yosha. Imasav and Yupach. It says in the Mishnah, if the inadvertently your seeds scattered in a vineyard, so if it already formed grass, so you turn it over, hakol mutter, and everything is mutter, even the grass is mutter. Imaviv, if it already has grown into a little bit into the stalks, so you should take the stalks out of the field, cut them down. Hakashi mutarim, the stalks are mutter. However, hadagan also, the grain is forbidden, because stalks are not really kilei akarim, right? They're stalks. The stalks of the grain are not the kilei akarim. Rather, just the crop is the kilei akarim. So therefore, the stalks at that point are mutter. You can use them whatever you want. Cook them. Use them for fuel. Okay, you can use the stalks. However, ime via dagan, once it already grew the grain, so in that case, how could the lake, you burn it, because once it already grew grain, so then also the stalks are also. Whereas before this, when they're just stalks, the stalks are mutter. You can uproot them and use them. When it grows into grain, not only is the grain also, but even the stalks then become also, because this no, the prohibition ain't deriving any benefit of kilei akarim, and then you have to burn everything. Right? Now, although the Gemara doesn't mention it, it's always partial that the grapevines are also. Right, because the grapevines are the other part of the kilei akarim equation. We're talking about at what point the various different stages of the grain being also are, but the grapevines are also obviously. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Hakol Aser. Rabbi Yochanan says, regardless of what stages, even if it's still grass, it hasn't grown into stalks and much less into wheat, it's Aser, no matter what. If that's the case, so why does it give various different suggestions? If it's grain, turn it over. If it's already grown a little bit spring-like into stalks, meaning then cut them down. You may via dagan to the lake, and if it's fully grown into grain, then you burn it. So Kahida says that's just suggestions. It's telling us the easiest way to dispose of the matter the stuff in question. Just telling us the easiest way to dispose of it, not telling us that any of it is permitted. Don't get the wrong idea. Okay, the Tanina Taman, like we learned over in other places, Orla, the Kilei Akarem, when you're dealing with Orla, which is prohibited in Hana, and Kilei Akarem, which is of course our case, which is prohibited in benefit, and Shadakal Yisaref, that which is normally burnt, you burn, as Shadakal Yisaref, that which is normally buried, you bury, and therefore here all we're doing is giving you an eitzah and telling you how to dispose of it, but you should not have any havamina, like we said before, that it's permissible.
Wouldn't you get hana in that case though?
If you what? But hana because of fertilizer?
No, you're doing mitzvah.
Oh, that hana of a mitzvah is never hana. The only hana which we have to talk about is tangible benefit, not the anytime you burn kilei akarim, you might be doing a mitzvah. The hana and olam haba which you get for doing a mitzvah doesn't count as hana. That's general principle. That's fake hana. Yeah, seriously, because hana means in this world olam hazedek hana. That's to say mitzvahs slav lehenos nidnu. Mitzvahs, they're not measured. Even if you enjoy a mitzvah, that's not considered to be the benefit of the mitzvah, right?
It's like the interest on the principle.
It's not. I don't know if it's called interest or principle. It's a spiritual thing, not a physical thing. Or it's about physical benefits.
No, as a physical, mamish physical.
Well, I don't even know if I use physical. I take back that word tangible. something which can be measured in this world in terms of your tangible appreciation. Appreciation is a real bad word. In terms of appreciable amount of money or appreciable amount of pleasure, which can be measured in this world. I still don't know if I'm defining exactly, but I think you get my drift, right? You understand what I'm saying?
I sort of do have a question, but I don't want to share.
All right. Yes.
When you talk about Hanoi, you don't talk about Hanoi from what we do, not what somebody else does. Right?
You mean?
Well, Kilayim, we can use somebody else's.
Not Kilayim Karim. No matter who grew the Kilayim Karim, nobody can use it. Right.
Okay.
Right. Grafting you can, not this.
Now the vines are always usher, even though the grain may be in different stages of development.
No, that only according to Rabbi Yochanan.
Yeah,
According to the other, but yeah, no matter what. Okay? Says Gemara, Rabbi Yaakov B'Shem Rishim Beloni said, Pamim Shakachim Mutarim V'Adogan Oser. In a related case, sometimes the stalks are mutar, but the grain is oser. Pamim Shakachim Asurim. Sometimes the stalks are permitted, V'Adogan Oser, and the grain is oser. How so? Zora B'Iser. Let's say you planted underneath grapevines, which is prohibited. But subsequently you remove the awning, the canopy of the grapevines. So Akashin Asurin, in that case, the stalks are also because they grew underneath the canopy of grapevines. However, Adoga Mutter, the grain is mutter. The grain is mutter because the grain grew obviously after you removed the awning, the canopy of forbidden grapevines. Vice Rabbi Zira said, boy, yes, Nicha Akashi Mutar Vadogan Oser. You get good, I understand. Nicha means it's good by me. So you gave me a case where the stalks are mutar and the grain is oser. But what about the other case? Akashin Asurim Vadogan Mutar. Give me a case where the kashin, the stalks are oser and the grain is mutar.
You're about to go to.
I skipped.
You're about to go to.
I skipped. Sorry, I skipped a half a line. Let's go back to Hey Chavida. Everybody see where the Hey Chavida is? Hey Chavida. Zora be'eter v'sicha al gabi akashin. If you planted when it was mutter, meaning I skipped that part of it. Zora be'eter you planted and you had not yet had a canopy of a grapevine there. Then later on, after the stalks had grown, before the grain grew in, you made a canopy of grapevines over the stalks of wheat. In that case, the stalks are mutter because they grew prior. They grew prior to the canopy being created, right? Zara beheter, the sicha agabi akashin, and then later on, once the stalks had grown, you made a canopy of grapevines over that. So in that case, Gabon, Hakash Mutarim, the stalks are mutar, Vadogan Oser, and the grain is oser. Now, vice versa, Zora Be'Iser, if you planted underneath a canopy of grapevines, and then subsequently after the stalks are grown, heavier as the schach, you remove the canopy, in that case, Hakash and Asurin, the stalks are oser, Vadogan Mutar, and the grain is mutar. Rabbi Zira asked the question, Nicha Hakash Mutar, Vadogan Oser. I understand the case where the stalks are mutar and the grain is oser, where you put the canopy over the stalks as they were growing the grain. However, I don't understand the case of Akash and Asurin, where the stalks are oser, and you said that the dogon, the grain, is mutar. That doesn't make any sense. Why? Because Gada mitocha iser. The grain grew out of oser stalks. So, Hatomar to dogon mutar, you're going to say the grain is mutar? It grew on out of a stalk which is oser. Therefore, the grain can't be mutar. Rabbi Zir Kedaitin is Rabbi Zir who holds in other places the same thing by onions. Dom Rabbi Zir b'shem Rabbi Yonason. Rabbi Zir said name Rabbi Yonason. Batzol shel kilei akarim. If you took an onion, which is kilei akarim, shakro you uprooted it, v'shalso and replanted it. Hafilu mosif kama, even if it grows much larger than the original onion, aser. It's forbidden. She'en gidulei iser malim esar iser. Once the bulb is prohibited, it cannot mala can't be make better. In other words, be matire that isser. In other words, that isser remains. So he holds that if it grows out of an usser shoot, or an usser stalk, or an usser bulb, it always remains usser. So even though you remove the canopy of the grapevine from over the stalk when the grain was growing, since the grain is growing out of usser stalks, it remains usser.
But he's also saying even a step further than that. All occasions, the grain is always usher. Even when the stalks are mutter, he's going to say that the grains are still usher.
No.
No. Reb Zayn-
If the stalks are mutter,
Yeah.
and you didn't place the give me the case.
Well, we're talking here.
Oh, where you place the canopy over the
Yeah.
stalk? Yeah, that of course he'll agree is us. He's just more machmir.
So
Right.
he's always machmir.
He's always going to answer the grain.
He's always gonna
In this
answer
case, the canopies, right? No matter what, the canopy was there to begin with the answer. The canopy comes later on the answers as well, right? So he doesn't hold that gadol mina heter is necessarily mutter. He holds gadol mina is necessarily aser. He doesn't hold gadol mina heter is necessarily mutter. That's what you're saying, right? I'm a kind of somebody who plants thorns and thistles in a vineyard. Right? Belezer Markida Shabbat says it creates kilei akerim. You're going to have kilei akerim if it's something which is normally kept as a foodstuff. Ha'irus va'kisus v'shoshanas ha'melech. These are all types of seeds. The komine zroim and all these types of zroim. So here there's a tikkun here, haga. Einam kilayim kerem. They're not kilayim kerem because these types of seeds, these types of seeds are not considered to be normal edible material. Perhaps some people eat them, perhaps animals eat them, but most people don't eat them. Cannabis.
The Mishnah that we have in the Bible says it here. It says Ein Kilayim B'Kerem.
Yeah. Einam, that's what he brings down here. Cannabis, marijuana, comes up from time to time. Because it's not edible. I never heard of people eating marijuana, but I guess so. Kinras, which is an artichoke. Yeah, Kinras Kilayim V'Kerem. Kinras is a Kilayim V'Kerem, does create Kilayim. Okay? Amar Rabbi Avo. Avo said, Tom is Rabbi Lezer. Why does Rabbi Lezer hold? How can Rabbi Lezer hold thorns create kilayim? We had this back in Pale. In Arabia, they feed the thorns to camels, so therefore they have a din of a foodstuff. Irus. What's an irus? It's irsay. What's a kisus? Kisusa. What? Excuse me? It's fine to be edible, not a fruit, a seed.
It's not an apple by a dog.
Camels are higher than dogs. Sure. Okay, they're no worse. No, I'm just making it up. I'm making it up. Yeah, they chew their cut, right? Just slit hoops. Ha'irus irsei. Hakisus is kisusa. The shoshanas hamelech is krinton. Hakinim, now, those are all just word definitions. Hakinim, va'agin, va'varod, va'todin, mean ilan, the types of trees. They don't create kilayim by a vineyard because the only type of kilayim which is, what's the only type of kilayim which you have by trees? Who remembers?
He says why?
Only grafting. Only grafting. There's no other prohibition of kilayim by fruit. In other words, if you have orange trees growing next to grapevines, there's no problem. Okay, it's only seeds. Hashifa va'itin va'gemi v'shar kol g'delim be'efer, anything else which grows in ashes, mean dishoim. They're types of grasses, and it should be they are kilayim b'kerem uvizroim. They're kilayim b'kerem. They create the prohibition of kilayim b'kerem, but they're not really seeds. They're types of grasses, so therefore you're not allowed to plant them together with zroim, with seeds, because that would be kilayim as well. So now we have a kasha. Here it said an atad is a type of tree. But Rabbi Yoshe elamine dushoim, these are types of grasses. Hakinris v'achema v'adamur v'atat. So we see an atat is a type of grass, not a type of tree. It says more taman lebracha. There it's say about a bracha. In the old days, we learned Masech the Bros. There was a bracha Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Borei Minei D'Shoyim. Types of grasses. So in terms of the bracha, they're the grasses. The kan, the kilayim. Here we're talking about in terms of kilayim. In terms of kilayim, we're talking about their absolute classification, which is as a type of grass, not as a which is a type of tree, not as a type of grass. Rabbi Yosef as a teacher. Well, I shouldn't say that. I should rectify that, please. Scratch that. What it means is the disciple son says that an atat is two types of fruit, one primary and one secondary. So the primary fruit you make a bari prietz on, but the secondary fruit is a bari minei d'shoyim, which nowadays should be a bari priadama. We don't have that many trees like that. One famous one in this regard is the caper tree, the tzlaf, which Gemara Brachos discusses. Caper tree. Now where you and I live. But they do grow on trees. Believe it or not, I actually saw one. I've actually seen one, once on a tiul near Beit Meir in Israel. So we were showing a caper tree. I don't remember how old I was or which tiul I was on. I remember very distinctly that the madrich of the tiul took out a Tanakh and talked about Salaf. No, maybe it was more bracha before. I don't remember. In any event, there are such things as caper trees. So you really want to get that on tape, don't you? So that's to ruin my reputation. In any event, what do I want to say? So there by the caper tree, you also have the same thing, that the higher forms of fruit of the tree get a bari prietz. The lower forms of the fruit of the tree get a bari priadama. Yerushalmi had an additional bracha, bari minei d'shoyim. So this is the bracha which you would make according to him on the secondary types of fruit of the atad. And the Gemara says there's such a thing by Nesrog as well. Rabbi Yossi Adamra Esrog, a citron tree. Even though you say bari prietz on the esrog itself, you say on the little buds of it, which are I don't know what they are, but they're also edible. Bari minei d'shoyim. Hatzlaf, the caper tree we were just discussing about. Beishamarmim kilayim bekerem. It's kilayim and kerem and bizroim, because we don't know what it is. We don't know if it's a tree. We don't know if it's a seed. So therefore, when in doubt, call kilayim everywhere. B'solmrim eno kerem lo kilayim lo bekerem v'lo bizroim. B'solmrim it definitively is a tree. Therefore, it doesn't create kilayim neither by vineyards nor by seeds. It's not a different type of seed or a vegetable, and therefore it doesn't create kilayim. Because the only type of kilayim we have is a tree is grafting. Everybody agrees that you have to keep orla the first 3 years with a caper tree. Papa says, anything which comes out of its trunk year after year, the same trunk, minilon is a type of tree. If the new growth every year comes from the roots as opposed to from the trunk, so in Minyak it's a type of vegetable, which of course is why banana is a vegetable. The thing is, hey Tivun, they asked the question, Hareya Kruv, Hareya Olam Megizo. Cabbage grows out of the same trunk every year. You know for a fact?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh.
I'm a New Yorker, I say yes.
Yeah. So, lichora, in that case, cabbage, the bracha should be bari prietz. Bari prietz. So it says more kam bevade kam besafek. That cloud that we go after where the new growth comes out is only where we have a suffix. But where sure something is a vegetable, we don't have to look at where the new growth comes from. Which is a shocking Gemara. You're nodding your head. This is a shocking Gemara. Because that means the classification of vegetable versus fruit. It's not scientific. Right? Because where do we follow the science? Only we have a suffix. What?
It's like a gut feeling.
It's a gut feeling. So by cabbage, where the gut feeling is that it's a vegetable, so even though it's technically a tree, you make a bari minei d'shoyim or bari priadama. It's an amazing principle. So classification of vegetable and fruit is not classified botanically, but classified by people's regard thereof.
Horseradish.
Yes.
Constantly plant it once, it'll constantly produce horseradish. It's every single year, whether you like it or not.
Well, I was still making only a dome. It has no trunk. It's got to have a trunk in order to be a bird for AIDS. The same bush, so it should be a bird for AIDS. Are you sure about that, though? I thought the types of grasses, strawberries. I mean, I picked wild strawberries. I never picked real strawberries. And they're grass. I don't think so. Blueberries are very pretty. They grow on trees. There's no doubt about that. Okay.
What would you say generally then would be the criteria to define something as shiur or vegetable?
Mass regard. Yeah, that's what it says here. Unless you have a suffix, then you follow the botanical, classification. But it depends on where the trunk grows every year. The new growth every year goes from the trunk again, or grows from the roots. The roots. Okay. Azoris. What's considered to be an oris? Now, an oris, I don't know, all the city slickers. You guys, have you ever seen a vineyard, a real vineyard? How does it grow? How do they grow the grapes? On a trellis, right? We haven't discussed the trellis till now, right? He grew on a trellis? Okay, so we never discussed trellises till now.
They're usually not, it's not food stuff. I mean, what's this?
What?
What's the issue? I understand the issue.
Good question. Now you find out. Ezu oris. An oris is a trellised vineyard. Now, a normal vineyard requires two, and one. Not the trellised one. Well, it depends what you're trellising it on. If you plant 5 grapevines in a row next to a fence, which is 10 tefachim high, you trellis them over the side of a trench. Not sure exactly how you did this. I guess you're picking them from down below in the trench. Which is 10 tefachim deep, and 4 tefachim wide. No simul avodas arba amos. You give 4 amos. You have to distance of 4 amos from this vineyard. Now, normally vineyard is 2 rows. Your vineyard is even 1 row of 5, as long as it's trellised over a fence. Okay, see that? That creates a vineyard. A vineyard with 1 row of 5 trees. You don't need 2 rows. Okay. A Beis Shammai, what?
I was going to ask, what about Beis Shammai?
No, the Gemara is going to ask that. The Mishnah is not going to deal with that. The Gemara is going to ask that. Beis Shammai, modim arba amos bikar kfanim v'asodeh. Beis Shammai says when you measure the 4 amos which you have distance yourself, you measure it from the base of the grapevines. Beis Hillel says you measure mina goder v'asodeh, from the fence and to the field. Now, it's Machlokas Rambam and Rash. What that means? There are 2 ways of learning. One is that Beis Hillel is Meikel, and the other is Beis Shammai is Meikel. Here's the fence. Here's 5 grapevines. According to the
if you had gone ahead and just used it for that purpose, but you now had money for that purpose, yes, money also.
According to the Rash, you measure the 4 amos from here. In order to plant on this side. So that's a cool. According to Beis Shammai, you have to measure from here, Dalet amos. Okay, but still you measure from here. That's the Rash. Okay, you can see from there? That, right. According to that would make Basil more makel. According to Rama, it's the exact opposite. When you measure in this direction, according to Beis Shammai, you measure from the tree 4 amos. According to Basil, you measure from the fence 4 amos. That's more machmir. Then Basil comes out to be machmir. Right.
Wouldn't be a telling point? Isn't there a mission that the mention of Basil is
yeah, but I don't know. I think we said ton of a shiur on that one.
Yeah.
So again, depends who you learn like the Rash. Then Basil is more makel because you measure from the fence in this direction. Like the Rambam, Basil is more macher because you measure from the fence as well, but in that direction. Says Mishnah further. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said, "Toin kol minkach." Everybody who mentioned this halacha of oris is wrong. Ella, rather, im yesh arba amos mikra gefen v'lagod kfanim v'lagod there. If there are 4 amos between the root of the vines and the fence, so nosin la'avodaso, you distance yourself from the grapevine 6 tefachim, which is the avod of a single kerem. V'zorei samuti, you can plant everything else up to the trellis. V'kama avodas hagefen, what is considered to be the avodas hagefen, right? The minimum shiur which you have to distance yourself around it. Shisha tefachim l'chol ruach, 6 tefachim on each side. Kiva Omer Shlosha, Kiva says 3 tefachim on each side. That's a little bit tricky here. Because in this case, if the vines grow like that, this is the foliage. If the vines grow like this, then it's also to plant any grain underneath, right? Because they extend all the way to the fence anyway, and they're trellised on the fence. Well, mean is over here, in between. So even though the vines are trellised on the fence, so according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, you can still plant between the vines and the fence as long as you're 6 tefachim. And according to Rabbi Kiva, even 3 tefachim away from each individual tree. Okay? Says Gemara further. It's difficult. This whole concept of oris is difficult on Beis Shammai. Below kach and also b'shum karim because Beis Shammai holds that 5 vines in a straight row make a vineyard. So what do I need our Mishnah for? Our Mishnah is not telling us anything we don't know. Korban still normally requires 2 rows, 1 of 3 and 1 of 2. So our Mishnah is a little bit of a chiddush. Korban Beis Shammai, what's the chiddush? Of course of course in this case it's a keren. Because you have 5 in a row. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Lakish Omer Boris Amukam Shan. So about where the ori zigzags. In other words, the bases of the trees are not in a straight line. So even when Rabbi Shammai says 5 is enough, they have to all be in a straight line. Okay? Oris is the trellised vineyard, trellised over the fence. Yeah. The Rasulay takes out the next line, and until Rabbi Yonah boy. See Rabbi Yonah boy? Rabbi Yonah asks, Ma'uli Zora bin Osayim, can you plant between the trees? If this is talking about a case where you have a zigzaggy oris, can you plant between the trees as long as you're 6 tefachim away from any specific tree? Meaning, this you have a picture of. You have page Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet, Yud Gimel. Yud Dalet. The flip side Yud Gimel. So in picture number Kuf Tet to Kuf Yud Dalet, that's the zigzaggy oris. Right? You see, not everything is the same distance. Our question now is picture Kuf Tes Vav. Okay, you're allowed to do that. on the expenses. Well, I spent a lot of money and I because the ones you're adding are not a direct line with the other ones. The wheat you're adding is not a direct line with any one of them. So you're allowed to put the wheat in the place where the two dashes are. You see the dashes? You're allowed to put the wheat in
between the rows, between the two, rather than the next one, which is in between the trees.
Right. Okay? So it says the Gemara, B'mechuvano saying, Vat Omar Mutalizar ben Asayim. Says also in the Gemara, but the Gemara makes it the word mutter. Yeah. So says the Gemara, Ben Chuvano saying that Omar Mutalizar ben Asayim. If you're going to say that that in this case, but he didn't eat anyone, but he wants to divorce her. Yeshua, now he makes a shiur. He makes a shiur how much he expended, and he could take the money back. He could say, look, if he didn't eat anything, but he spent the money, he makes a shiur how much he spent. I forgot what the word mechuvanos is doing here. Yes.
For this, goes call. It's a day who stay on Rashi.
What?
One of each of those rows.
Yeah.
The second row doesn't correspond to the first row.
Yeah.
Each row within itself is
Yeah, so how do you read the line? Mechuvana saying at Omar Mutar Lizar ben Asayim. What does that mean? How much is a little bit? It's bitmiyah. It's bitmiyah. It's a question. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what he says. In other words, if you're going to consider this oris to be connected, everything this oris to be connected, how can you say it's possibly mutter? Right? In other words, if you're saying that the fact that they're all trellised over the fence makes them all one, so how can be matir possibly in Kuf Tesvav where the dashes are? They're considered to be within the oris, right? Again, the trellis unites everything in that area, makes it considered as one. Yeah.
So the trellis is going right over the...
Even they're not going right over, but they're in the area, in the section which is trellis, right? Okay, so it says more Mauli Zara Ben Akfani. What about a case planting among the vines? Yeah, why would that be more mutter?
Because the trellises are only directly connected with
those three?
those.
I don't know if that's true.
These two should be underneath.
Yeah.
I don't know that have we necessarily made the assumption that this is confined to more than
Well, what? How is it different? That's what's bewildering me right now. They're called shikra. Yeah. I feel the shikra. They're cut up.
Just because of
Well, not their problem. These is their problem. And he says
You don't necessarily
People between the lines.
Bring my hand,
What would make one more chomer than the other?
I'm trying to figure that out now. I think it's like this. As a matter of fact, I'm sure it's like this. In this case, we aser because we look at the karam as going this way. In that case, even if you draw the line, it won't aser the karam. In this case, when you draw the line, it's a zigzaggy line, and asers the karam, right? It asers, it goes directly across where these two wheats are. In this case, even if you draw the line, the wheat is interspersed in a way that it shouldn't make it aser.
Well, why wouldn't you say that the entirety of the unity of...
You might. That's what we're asking as a question. You might say the entirety of the overhangs, right, is all considered to be one. But the Gemara holds it's a question. That's what the Gemara is asking. What do I say in this case? Okay? So it says the Gemara, Kimada Tamar Gabi Muksha, like you say, by pumpkins. Also, Lizor Ben Agumos, you're not allowed to plant among the holes which contain the pumpkins. Of Hachas, so it's over here. Also, Lizor Ben Agfanim, you're not allowed to plant between the vines. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, but that's all one teretz in the Gemara. They're going according to Beis Shammai, even in our Mishnah, and Beis Shammai says need the oris here because it's talking about a zigzag oris. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Baris HaMechuvan Shanu, we're talking about a straight 5 vines in an oris. In Baris HaMechuvan Shanu, below Gara and Osir. If we're talking about a direct line where it's not zigzag, so according to Beis Shammai, what do you need the trellis for? Anyway, it's also right. So why mention the trellis? It says more of a Kim Beis Hillel to me. So the trellis mentioned because Beis Hillel requires a trellis when there are 5 vines. When there are 5 vines in the row, Beis Hillel requires a trellis in order to consider it to be one vineyard. You're right, Beis Shammai doesn't need the trellis because Beis Shammai holds 1 row as a vineyard anyway. We only need the trellis according to Beis Hillel. Okay? Says the Gemara. No, it's not a Kash Beis, it's Beis Shammai. Why does Beis Shammai have to say that this case is also where there's a trellis next to 5 vines in a row? Anyway, it's also because a trellis, without the trellis, according to Beis Shammai, 5 vines in a row are also. So in Beis Hillel requires 2 opposite 2 and then 1 zone of at the end. Okay, so the question is why Beis Shammai required trellis? Martha says Beis Shammai wouldn't require a trellis. Beis Hillel wants to, but we mentioned a trellis because according to Beis Hillel requires a trellis in this case. Okay? Umar Rabbi Yochanan tzitz Reish Lakish. Baris HaMeukam Shanu. That, I skipped again. Rabbi Chanina. No, I skipped the line. Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Shimon, it makes sense that Shimon Lakish concedes Rabbi Yochanan. Boris HaMechuvan Shanu, who said that we're talking about a straight oris. And what's not, he concedes that that's found in the Mishnah, but he concedes that that's the halacha. Meaning that could begin Beis Hillel. Since Beis Hillel paskins by Boris HaMechuvan that I take that back. Motor Rabbi Shimon, let me read that line again. Motor Rabbi Shimon Lakish Rabbi Yochanan Boris HaMechuvan Shanu. That's possible to tell you about it, an Oris HaMechuvan. And the reason why Beis Shammai is mentioned is only because he slept in begin Beis Hillel, because of Beis Hillel, he slept along, it's to tag along. Motor Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan tzitz Reish Lakish, we learned the other way as well. Whereas HaMeukam Shanu, we're talking about a zigzag oris. Begin Rabbi Yochanan Nuri, and we would say it's because Rabbi Yochanan Nuri. Rabbi Yochanan Nuri Amar Toyin Kol Omrin Kain. Everybody's wrong who says the concept of oris. In Tema Oris HaMechuvan Shanu, and if you're going to say that we're talking about an Oris HaMechuvan where it's direct, Ma Ispei Toin. Who's making any mistake? There is a law of Oritza Mechuvan. So, so therefore he must hold that we can give Rabbi Shimon Lakish's teretz as well. So everybody holds that the other person's teretz is also sufficient, very gentlemanly machlokas. That Reish Lakish holds that we're talking about a case where zigzag occurs, and that's why this is machlokas. And Rabbi Yochanan holds talking about a case where not that it's a zigzag, but we're talking about a straight oris, and the reason why Beis Shammai is mentioned is not because Beis Shammai requires an oris in order to institute this halacha, but in order that we should be talking about a parallel case with Beis Hillel. Okay. Again, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Omar Toin Kol Omrin Kain. Everybody makes a mistake in Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. In Temba Oris and Mechuvan, trying to be talking about an Oris which is direct. Ma Isbeito, what's their mistake? This is a camera going to Beis Shammai. So it must be that he holds that this Mishnah is only going to Beis Hillel, and Beis Shammai has just schlepped the law along, because he's always schlepped along with the Machlokas of Beis Hillel. Bain, Kamadamar Demikar Gifani Moshchem, Uvein Kamadamar Meikar Ager Moshchem, Ma Beineo. There's a Machlokas, as you mentioned before, where do we measure from? We measure from the trees, or we measure from the base of the fence in order to create the space of Kilei Akeret. Amar Rabbi Yonah, Rabbi Yonah said, Tipoter Shayu Biwatek Shayu Akrosim, Nesuni Miktosim Toch Arbamus, Miktosim Toch Arbamus. Let's say it's about a case where the Krosim, the trees, are partially within 4 amos and partially outside of 4 amos. So in that case, Madamar Mikar Kfanim Moshchin, in according to people, shows that we measure 4 amos from the grapevines, Nicha. In that case, the grapevines are awesome, no matter what. It's regardless. 100% awesome, because from the base of the grapevine to the fence is less than 4 amos. However, that's Madamar Mikar Kfanim Moshchin Nicha, because you take a 4 amos tape measure and measure from the fence to the from the tree to the fence. I assume the ground actually, or I don't know for sure. I think so, but I'm not sure if that's the case. In any event, it says the one again. Hipotashu crossing the Sulim Miksasim Toch Arbams, Miksasim Chutz Arbams. Part of them within 4 amos, some of them outside of Arbams. So, if you measure from the root of the grapevines, so Nicha, then in that case it's good. Well, it's really bad. It's awesome. Makes sense to Isser. In other words, in that picture we had before. What? Don't stand it?
It's okay.
Let's say it. Here's the fence. Here's the grapevine. The 4 amma line goes like this. No, we are. That's the machlokas here. If you measure my ikar kfanim, yeah. If you measure from here, from the ikar, from the base of the kfanim till here, and that's less than 4 amos, 4 is greater than that, how much of the tree is usher? The entire tree.
Not just half of it.
No, because we measure me'ikar kfanim from the root. So you measure 4 amos. Man the Omar may ikar goder moshkin. Corey who says you start your measurement not here and go outwards. But rather you measure from the wall and outwards. Where does it end?
Wait, that really is such a good question because
half of the tree. Where you get to the 4 amos. Not beyond that. Okay, that's nafkamina. If you start from the base of the tree, as long as there's less than 4 amos between the base of the tree and the fence, the tree itself is also. If you planted grain in the vicinity. If you measure from the fence out, so wherever 4 amos ends, even in the middle of the tree, you can't go beyond that and forbidding it. Is that clear so far? Is that clear, Mr. Zuber? What? Let's try another nafkamina. Instead of 4 amos, there are only 2 amos between here and the tree. This whole distance is 2 amos. So now, if you measure from the geffen, how much is Osir? 4 amos this way. 6 altogether. If you measure from the fence, how much is Osir? Only 2 amos beyond the tree, which is 12 altogether. That's a good question. I don't know where I got 12. I don't know what I was even thinking of.
3 and 4, 7.
What was I thinking of? If it's I was looking at the 6. Where did I get the 6 from either? No, I fell asleep while I was talking. Let's do that over again. By the way, I don't know anybody else who can fall asleep while they're giving shiur besides me. I take pride in that skill. You have between the trees and the fence 2 amos. So now, if you measure from the fence out, then the Isser extends for 4 amos from the fence, which is 2 amos beyond the tree. 2 and 2 equals 4. If you measure from the trees out, then it's 6. That's where I got the 6 from.
Right, because 2 of the 3 and 4 out.
Oh, so the 6 was right.
4 out.
2 and 4 equals 6. Okay, just not 12. So 6 was right. It's just the 12 which was wrong. Okay, good. So in any event, again, if you measure from the fence, there's an nafkamina if you measure from the tree. By the way, why would you measure from the fence? Because the fence is what generates the kerem here, right? Without the fence, there ain't no kerem. Because what makes us a kerem? The trellis work. Without the trellis work, there's nothing to talk about. Okay. Says the Gemara. Madamar Mikra Geder Moshchin. We just sorry. There are 2 amos there. Madamar Mikra Geder Moshchin. If you go out from the grapes, and also l'shtei amos, only 2 amos. Darn. Sorry about the other direction here. Sorry. Same idea. If you this is a chumrah if you measure from the grapes, right? But it's the other direction too. If you measure from the grapes in this direction, how far do you have to go beyond the fence?
2.
Only 2, right? If you measure from the fence in this direction, how far do you have to go? 4, which is 6 altogether from the grapevines. Okay, so that's the Gemara's case. Okay, so it says the same idea. Then you go from the vines themselves, and also shtei amos only has 2 amos on the fence. You go to the measure from the fence and on. Also, at shtei amos acher, you have to ask an additional 2 amos. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan, Ben Nuri, Shloshen Amru. They all said the same thing. Rabbi Shmuel, meaning that that by where you have an oris, Beisil and Beisham said you have to sell 4 amos. It's a regular vineyard. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says you only have to distance yourself 6 tvachim. Only 6 tvachim, just like a single vine. He did say that you need 4 if you want to plant between the fence and the oris. You need to have 4 amos there. But once you have the 4 amos, you only have to distance yourself 6 tvachim, not the full 4 amos. Because the old trellis work doesn't create a full-blown, bona fide vineyard. Okay? So where do we see that the other sheets is like this? Rabbi Shmuel, because he learns Algina Ktana. If you have a small garden, Shimukeves Oris, which is surrounded by a trellis work. If you have enough people to hold enough area to hold a harvester and his basket on one side, and harvester's basket on the other side, you can plant in the middle of this garden. If not, Lotizor, you can't plant in the middle of this garden. Now, what's a mole or visalu? A good question. The Gemara asks, it's an amma for the harvester, an amma for his basket. Amma baitzer amasalu, and so on and so forth. Now, that means that if you have a trellis work here in a square, and you plant 4 trees. Well, let's make it 5. These 5 are mitzdarif, according to this stage of the Gemara. And they ban the middle, they ban planting anything else. If they're less than 2 amos here, it's 2 amos of space. But each vine needs 2 amos of space. So altogether they're 4 amos, right? Okay? So it says where if they're more than 4 amos between the vines, so then I get the plant in the middle. At a distance of 6 tvachim from the vines, anything I want. Because Rabbi Shmuel holds that in an oris, this would not be a vineyard otherwise, because the 5 trees are not in the right shape. But so in oris, as long as there's 4 amos of leeway between the vines, so then I get the plant within 6 tvachim of the vine, up to 6 tvachim within the vines. This is a concept you've had several times in Kilayim. The space you need is greater than the amount of distancing you have to do in order to create the proper scenario, right? So that's what we're talking about here. The space, as long as the space between the vines is 4 amos, according to Rabbi Shmuel, you can plant 6 tvachim away from each vine, which is an amma and a half. Okay? So it says the Gemara, this is complicated. It says the Gemara. I'm Rabbi Yehuda. I'm a beit. Well, it just said. Ham boy me'ar mandam mikra kfarim moshchim nicha. So they want to say, you know what? If you measure from the base of the grapevine, it's fine. However, mandam mikra garden moshchim. However, if you measure from the fence, you got a problem. Ain't also my korsin mimati not some arba. How are you ever gonna have 4 amos? You're never gonna have 4 amos. Why? Because in this case, if there's 4 amos between the trees, that means that the whole oris is something like 4 amos by 4 amos. Slightly more than 4 amos by 4 amos. But that's it. Right? So the whole, am I so clear? Let's say there are 2 amos between each tree. So between each tree there are 4 amos. 4 amos, 4 amos, right, and so on and so forth. Okay, now measure from the ikar goder. Measure from the fence. Where do you have 4 amos in which you can plant? Take a look in. There, let's make this clearer. If this is 4 by 4, how many vines do you have to have in there? 5. How are you ever going to configure a scenario in which there are going to be 4 amos between the vines that you're going to be able to plant within that trellis work surrounded area any vegetables? There's no way it's ever going to work, right? How are you ever going to get it? Again, if you're measuring from the fence, so you're never going to have enough distance 4 amos in order to plant there. It's never going to work. You're always going to be stuck, right? So says the Gemara, if you measure from the vines themselves, then that's not a big deal. Configure the vines in a way that you're going to be able to make it out. That you're going to have four vines, each of which, 5 vines, each of which is 4 amos apart from the other. But if you're measuring from the fence, how's it going to work out? So says the Gemara, I got one. Says the Gemara, picture Kufyud Bet Zayin. They're growing tightly adhering to the trellis, to the fence. You see that? So how we can get 4 amos in between them. Slight problem with picture Kufyud Zayin. What's the problem with picture Kufyud Zayin?
If you're measuring from the trunk, it's still going to be...
No, you measure from... No. So the trunk... He said the picture's not drawn properly. It's growing out of the wall.
Outside.
It's growing out of the wall. Out of the wall. What's the problem with picture Kufyud Zayin? Where's the 5th one? You have 4 and the 4 quarters. Where's the 5th one? It can't be in the middle because then you have less than 4 amos again. Okay? Says Gemara, wait a minute. Lo boy in a klum. If you only have 4, isn't it? It's nothing, right? Isn't it 4? Ain't a klum. It's nothing. Hilchos Aretz b'chomesh. You need 5 in order to make an aretz. Where's your vineyard? Amar Reb Chanina. Reb Chanina said Tipot to resolve it like this. We're talking about a case. Shtei gefanim v'sunim bekeren zavis achas. There are 2 grapevines in an angle. Shim tachem, if you draw a line from them, henirin ka'arba benayim, you're going to have 4 amos between them. That's picture number Kufyud Ches. Now this, bear in mind, why Kufyud Ches? Why do you have to put that? Why couldn't you just put that vine at the bottom corner in that case? This is a Bakia's question. Why do you have to put the vine in the middle of the eastern wall? Let him put it at the southeast corner.
Because you have the imaginary tree in the corner.
Then you'd have a vineyard without the oris. Without the oris, you'd have a vineyard. So we need a scenario which is only going to be a vineyard with the oris, right? The only way where the trees are not aligned in the proper way to otherwise create a vineyard. So this is a case where it's the trellis which surrounds it which creates the vineyard, right? And in that case, you're going to have a scenario where you're going to have 4 amos between the trees because each one of these 5 trees is growing out of the wall in a different location, and therefore you'll have area, as long as this is 6 tefachim from the trees themselves, where you can plant in this oris. Now bear in mind, this is only according to Rabbi Shmuel. According to Rabbanan, you can't plant the thing in this oris. Because according to Rabbanan, which is Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, in an oris you have to distance yourself 4 amos. Maybe for the fence, maybe from the vines, but you have to distance yourself 4 amos, right? Here, there's no place to hide. There's no place to distance yourself 4 amos. It's only according to Rabbi Yochanan Nur and Rabbi Shmuel that once you have a distance of 4 amos in theory, you only have to distance yourself 6 tefachim in practice that you actually get to plant something within that oris. Okay? Says the more further. Mandamar Mikar Rabbi Yossi. How do we know Rabbi Yossi has the same shita? Tzini, we learned the previous parak. Rabbi Yossi Mer. Rabbi Yossi says if you have a wine press in the middle of your vineyard, and in the vineyard there's in the wine press there is a grapevine growing. So in Ein Sham Arba Amos, if there isn't 4 amos from between the grapevine and the walls of the wine press, Lo Yavi Zer L'Sham. You can't plant anything in the wine press. However, there, obviously, that can't be going like Rabbanan, and that's like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Because if it's like Rabbanan, you have to plant beyond the 4 amos altogether. So here it means once you have 4 amos, you have to distance yourself 6 tvachim. So again, all you need is the hypothetical distance of 4 amos, and then you can plant anywhere beyond the 6 tvachim, immediately around the grapevine. Okay? Now, it says more about this. According to Pina, you measure 4 amos from the roots of the geffen. That's good. I can get 4 amos, right? How do I get 4 amos? I take 4 amos from wherever the vineyard, the vine is, and I measure 4 amos around it. Let me draw that for you. In this case, let's say this is the wine press, and the grapevine is over here. So I get here more than 4. I get here 4 amos, and I planted this 6. It was 6 tvachim away, right? However, according to Pina, we look at the fence. How are you ever going to get 4 amos? You're never going to be able to get 4 amos in that case.
If you start from the fence and go in, but if you start from the line,
I'm not sure now. I don't remember how to run this. This picture Kufiyut test. Same idea.
Alright, you're going to say, out of nowhere, after Uriah and fruitful land, roamed the crop. Now you're going to get all of his profit. In this Shiva, what do we say? The God, we are reading the Torah. And they shows up. What is the Sabbath? I don't do buying off. At least that was just what I read.
I understood it when I saw it this afternoon. Now I'm frustrated. I understood why it's not in the middle. Now I don't remember. Let's see if we can figure it out again. Again, we're talking about a wine press like this. This is the wine press. It's a rectangle. Okay, so if we measure
the length of that is Daled Amos.
the whole length is Daled Amos, right? So if you go from the base of the tree, Madarika Kvani Moshchim Nicha.
I
don't understand how it works.
What?
Unless the base is on the outside of
Oh, okay, I understand it now. Again, let's see that inside. According to him, that we go from the base of the grapevine, so then it's good. Then we can get Dalet Amos. How do we get Dalet Amos? So let's say the grapevine is here. So you measure Dalet Amos across from here to here, and that gives me a place to. All right. Now it is tricky. According to opinion, go from the base of the grapevine. Where's your Dalet Amos? This could be much more than Dalet Amos. Doesn't matter. This could be 10 Amos. Okay. According to opinion, you get Dalet Amos. It could be 10 Amos across. Okay. So according to opinion, that you measure from the grapevine. Fine, I got it. Yeah. Here's Dalet Amos. This is the Dalet Amos, and then I can plant right here, right? According to opinion, however, that we measure from the fence. How many fences are there here? 4 fences. Where do you ever have Dalet Amos away from a fence?
The furthest fence is...
So that's Gemara's answer. The Gemara's Havmina is we're talking like this, right? Gemara's Havmina is we're talking about where it's in the middle. It's in the middle. All right, and let's say, I guess we have to, there is a limitation. It's not 10 Amos in the Gemara's Kasha. Gemara's Kasha is, let's say this is 8 Amos across, right? So if you measure from the tree, well, it has to be, let's make it 10 again. If you measure from the tree, then you have 4 Amos, right? Go to here and you have 4 Amos, go to here and you have 4 Amos, and then you have this area which you can plant and this area which you can plant. So you measure from the fence, then the fences are closing in on all 4 sides. There's no 4 Amos. Alright, myself clear? Okay? So the Gemara answers, there is a case, right? Where's the case? Where you put it all the way over here, like the end of a bowling alley. So then, you have here, although it's true the fences close in all over here, the fences don't close in over here. And therefore you can plant in this area, which is more than 4 Amos away on the other side.
That's a major assumption that it's longer than 4 Amos.
Right. But that's the assumption the Gemara is making. Okay, the Gemara is, although it's not, Tipatek Shechavukla Kaiso means that it's irregularly planted, right? And you see he drew it like a rectangle. So again, the tree, what threw me off is I wasn't thinking that the walls close in from all 4 sides. And therefore you have to come up with a scenario in which the tree is asymmetrical vis-a-vis the rest of it, so even if you measure the walls, still the walls are not going to impinge on the tree itself. Okay? There's going to be, even measured from the walls, they're not going to reach the tree, and there's going to be enough room to plant, enough space. Let's try and get to the Mishnah. Boy, this is rough. Says, V'achin Rabbi Yochanan Nuridach. In the case of Rabbi Yochanan, so once you have those 4 Amos, though, you only have to distance yourself physically from the tree is 6 Tvachim. Okay? Because otherwise there'd be no place you could plant in the hole, right? Because the whole hole is only the whole hole is only all you need, he says, is 4 Amos from the tree to the wall. Well, once you have that 4 Amos, so then he says that's all you need. Where you're going to plant, if you have distance of 4 Amos, it must be, you don't have to distance 4 Amos. As long as you have 4 Amos, you can plant 6 Tvachim away. Okay, because we have Rabbi Yochanan Menuri over here, says the same thing by the Oris case. Now, Mistabra, it makes sense to say, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Yossi was speaking about in the winepress, and Rabbi Shmuel, who's talking about in an Oris which is surrounded on all 4 sides, Yodu Rabbi Yochanan Menuri. They'll consider Rabbi Yochanan Menuri that certainly in our case over here, where there's only an Oris on one side, that oil, once you have the 4 Amos hypothetically, all you have to distance yourself is 6 Tvachim. However, Rabbi Yochanan Menuri lo Yodi Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Shmuel. Could be Rabbi Yochanan Menuri won't consider Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Shmuel, because Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Shmuel will tell you about where there's closure on all 4 sides. Either the trellis on all 4 sides or the walls of the winepress on all 4 sides. He might not say that in that case. or you need a 6 tvachim in distance. Maybe in that case he's going to be more machmir, right? Rabbi Yossi Yodi Rabbi Shmuel. Also, Rabbi Yossi, who speaks about the wine press, will certainly say that in the case of Rabbi Shmuel, you only need a 6 tvachim, where there is no, where there's no, you don't have the same degree of the, the same degree of closure, because it's in a depression in the ground. It's just surrounded by a trellis.
The most common come first. They don't know. They know what the most
No, this is the other way around. He learned it the other way, Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky. Let me go back a line. Mistab Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel, Yodu, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rabbi Yossi and Shmuel both could see to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, whereas Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri lo Yodi, Rabbi Shmuel, Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel. Meaning l'chumra. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel will be machmir like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and require 4 amos. Alright, he learns very differently than I learned, and I submit myself to his will. He says like this. He says that, he says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the case of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri in our Mishnah. 5 and then a wall. That, he says, is more like a kerem than both the case of Rabbi Shmuel, which is the case of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, surrounded, and certainly the case of Rabbi Yossi, where all you have is 1 in a wine press. So whatever chumras we say over here are certainly conceded to by the people who are machmir over here. If you're machmir in these cases and say you need archok of 4 amos, it's true, once you have the archok of 4 amos, you can plant anywhere more than 6 tvachim away. But if you're machmir in these cases, you're certainly going to be machmir in this case. But if you're machmir in this case, where you have 5 in a row, it doesn't necessarily follow you're going to be machmir in this case or that case. Now, a derivative of that is that Rabbi Yossi is machmir in this case. The single tree is certainly going to be machmir in Rabbi Shmuel's case for the 5 trees. But it doesn't follow that Rabbi Shmuel's machmir in this case is going to be machmir in that case, and require 4 amos of distancing over there. That's what the Gemara is saying. Mistabra, it makes sense to say Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel, Yodin, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. If they're machmir in these cases and require 4 amos, they're certainly going to require 4 amos over there. Okay? However, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, lo Yodi, Rabbi Shmuel, Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri will not concede to Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel. In other words, he won't necessarily require 4 amos in this case or that case. And Rabbi Yossi, Yodi, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi's machmir in this case of 1 tree, certainly machmir in this case of 5 trees. However, Rabbi Shmuel, Yodi, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel's still machmir in case of 5 trees. Is not going to be Rabbi Yossi's machmir in case of 1 tree. So Rabbi Yehuda b'Shem Rav said, new issue. Rabbi Yehuda b'Shem Rav, Aloch Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said the avodah of a geffen is not 6 tvachim, but 3 tvachim. He said in our Mishnah. So Rabbi Yehuda says, Aloch like Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yehuda b'Shem Levi said, don't get jump for joy. It's only in Chutz La'aretz. Because Aloch Akiva Mishum Mekel b'Chutz La'aretz. In Eretz Yisrael, avodah sakarim is 6 tvachim. In Chutz La'aretz, one can be makel like Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva himself meant to be makel only even in Eretz Yisrael. That's 3 tvachim. But we can only pass like him in Chutz La'aretz. Amrei Yaakov Ba'achav Tanya Tamoni. Let's over there also. Halacha Mishu Mekel B'chutz La'aretz. Halachas like those who are making L'chutz La'aretz. Okay, limping to the finish line.